Yeah, I do think he has to legitimize himself, and he has to beat me. I can't see anybody else who can do that for him. I've beaten just about everybody in this weight class, or fought everybody in this weight class just to get to this position. I've had 13 UFC fights now. This is gonna be my 14th fight, finally getting a title shot. And he's had 7 fights, and the guys he fought, in terms of the calibers of opponents, I've been in that top 10 gauntlet, top 5 gauntlet for quite a bit now. He's only fought Jimmy Rivera. You could say Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo is a tough dude, but fighting a guy who has a loss in the division right for the title doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Corey Sandhagen and myself were ranked higher than him, and I would argue that we had better resumes. He beat us Sunsao. I had just beaten Pedro Munoz, who knocked out the former champion. And yeah, I think he knows he's a bad man. I know he's a bad dude, but at the end of the day, he's beating up a lot of old men, and he has to beat a young lion still. So I think for him, he wants to prove this more than anything, and I think that's his driving factor, to prove that he really is the champ. And for me, I got to show that he's been the paper champ this entire time, and the real champ was the guy who fought Corey Sandhagen and finished the fight in under 2 minutes.
How do you see that fight potentially playing out? I think as it stands, a lot of people are leaning towards Israel becoming the double champ.
Yeah, I mean, I like Israel in the fight. You never know. Jan's got a very herky-jerky style. I rushed the fight. I thought he was more visible. He wasn't as clean and as confident as I thought he would be. I just over put myself into a takedown situation, what I don't normally do. I thought I could just finish the fight pretty easily, and I wasn't used to his size and strength, and overcommitted to a takedown and just juiced my arms up. And by the time I got out of the clinch, I was just like, it was just watered down. I had all the blood in my arms, and I couldn't get off like I should. If I was more patient and just waited for my shots, my opportunities, I think it would be a much different fight. And I see Israel just this confidence, and I think he's peaking right now, and I think he'll be more patient, and I think he'll see Jan, and I think he'll find his mark more often than not.
But this just smells like sour grapes, or excuses, maluses, whatever you want to call it. I lost my title fight. Listen, you fucking lost. You got beat. You didn't show up. You didn't try and fight. You took a sleep aid. Yeah, you looked half asleep. He looked half asleep in that fight because he didn't do fuck all. Saying he was drunk in the octagon still, don't buy that. Why don't I buy that? Well, because they're in fucking Abu Dhabi and they're doing it on California time. So he didn't walk into the octagon until fucking 6 o'clock in the morning the day after. So unless he was getting pissed that day without going to sleep, that's highly unlikely. I've been here. I know this phenomenon. I've indulged with a couple of drinks the night before a fight.
Are you saying that you have been intoxicated?
I have been intoxicated before, and I have been intoxicated the night before a fight. You know what I'm saying? Not that I'm proud of that, For Paulo Costa, I've got to wonder how much of the pressure was a factor for him doing that. Do you know what I'm saying? Was the pressure getting to him a little bit? And in terms of, a bottle of wine, listen, it is enough. If you drink a bottle of wine and you don't drink enough, all jokes aside, that would be enough the next day to impact your performance in a negative way, okay?
Right, especially at that level where you have extremely high-level athletes that are, going up against Israel Adesanya, who has, the reflexes of a cat. He's everyone's #1 pound-for-pound guy right now. Without a doubt, you don't want to lose any edge. I'm just saying that this also might be something that Paulo Costa needs to do in order to get himself mentally, giving himself that excuse. Maybe he can, that's just sort of what gets him motivated, where he's going, you know what, I wasn't 100%. And if he needs to tell himself that, then fine. I'm not hating on it, but he should just keep it to himself. He shouldn't tell the media that. He should tell himself that.
Well, because what are the alternatives? The alternatives are admitting and saying to the world, I, as a professional fighter on my best form, went out there and got my ass kicked royally. You know what I mean? And that, that's not good for him to accept that. His ego won't allow him to accept that. Maybe that is what happened, but I suspect it wasn't. And I understand, because as fighters, you're going to have ultimate confidence. So you're going to almost convince yourself that, no, I would beat him. If everything was perfect, I'd destroy that guy. But on this occasion, it wasn't for this reason. But also, you got to be realistic. You can't just be in denial. You have to accept what went wrong. You have to be man enough to look yourself in the mirror, to look at the fight, watch it, break it down with the coaches and say, well, fuck, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I engage more? Why didn't I try and counter here? Why was my output so low? They're the questions that I should be asking, not putting things out there in the media saying I drank red wine. The reality is, the sport has moved on from that fight. That was back in when? August, September or something. It's moved on. Adesanya's fighting Blachowicz next month. Don't embarrass yourself further by making excuses. Say, you know what? I got beat by the champ, but guess what? I'm going nowhere. I'm going to win 2 more fights. I'm going to beat Robert Whittaker, and I'm going to get to do this again. I made mistakes last time, but when I get a rematch, I won't fuck up then.
E essa garrafa de vinho que você perguntou é um vinho realmente, um vinho tinto. Quando eu tenho dificuldade para dormir, eu recorro ao vinho. Aí eu tomo 1 taça, 2 taças no máximo. Tem um pouco de carboidrato, mas é o que me faz.